on the 49ers. This is what their schedule looks like. Matt, take it away.
Yeah, very bad season for the Niners that I don't think they want to remember anymore. The 2024 season, 6-11, last in the division, not a chance of making the playoffs. And then I dug into the underlying metrics, interested in this team. They were 11th in offensive EPA per play, 0.063. Their pass block win rate was 61%, 14th in the league, and then the run block win rate was pretty bad. They have a lot of younger players like Dominic Pooney, Spencer Burford. That was 24th. And then this is where it all went wrong. Their defensive EPA per play was 0.054, tied at 26 with the team you don't want to be tied with, Cincinnati. But their pass rush win rate was 15th in the league, and run stop win rate was 13th in the league. And Brock Purdy was really good. 0.198 EPA per play, 8th in the league, and a 51.8 success rate, which was 7th in the league. And their offseason was pretty simple. They didn't really make any splashy free agency moves. You can argue Bryce Huff was the biggest veteran move they made. They extended, of course, Purdy, Fred Warner, and George Kittle, the big three, to top of the market extensions, which those three guys deserve. I even think Purdy maybe left some money on the table, just a little bit, but I think he could have argued getting that Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence number, but he didn't. And then you get into free agency. I was mentioning Bryce Huff. They traded for him very recently. Luke Farrell, who's a blocking tight end from Jacksonville, 3 years, $15 million. Mac Jones is one of their key signings, 2 years, $8 million. Demarcus Robinson, I just mentioned with the Rams, 2 years, $8 million. Mac Jones is making more money than Demarcus Robinson, who was a 750-yard receiver for the Rams last year. Saron Neal from Miami, 2 years, $4 million. And then Jason Pinnock, who the only reason I highlighted him is because Malik Mustafa, he is likely to be out. It's torn pec. That's his injury, right? I can't remember.
Correct.
And so I wanted to highlight them signing Jason Pinnock means something because he's going to have to start for them because Malik Mustafa likely will be out for a little bit and one of their main departures. Their draft was very intentional. That was the best way I could put it. 5 picks in the top 120, all of them spent on the defensive end. Mykel Williams, edge rusher in the first round. Alfred Collins out of Texas, Hook'em Horns in round 2. Nick Martin, linebacker in round 3. Upton Stout, defensive back from Western Kentucky in round 3. And then C.J. West, Indiana Hoosier, interior defensive lineman, evened it out in the 4th round. And then their departures, they lost a lot of, I going through their SPO track and just seeing how many, how much annual money they gave up was pretty stark. There's a lot of good players on this list that they had to let walk because they're paying their big money guys, and Brock Purdy's money came due. Debo, of course, they traded away early, very early. Was this this was one of the first moves we had seen of the offseason, if I remember correctly. Aaron Banks went to the Packers. That's 775 snaps. Javarius Ward, he walked to the Colts, 694 snaps. Jalen Moore, who went to the Chiefs, not a lot of snaps, but got a lot of money. So there was clearly some desire to want to keep him if the Niners were close to keeping him at that money. Hufanga, he didn't play much last year, only 308 snaps, but he walks, good player. Leonard Floyd, who ironically had 8.5, 9 sacks last year, tied with Nick Bosa. He walked 604 snaps. Malik Collins, 715 snaps, and then just throwing them in there because they got paid a lot of money. Drake Greenlaw and Javon Hargrave did not play a lot for this team last year, but they got pretty good contracts from the teams that paid them. And then the last thing before we get into the schedule prediction is, of course, my season outlook question. My question for the Niners is, are the Niners still in the upper class of the NFC? And I think this season will tell us, because for the last half decade, the NFC has been dominated by 4 teams: the Rams, the Eagles, the Packers, the Niners. It those three teams all made the playoffs. They're all ascending due to their quarterback, or one of them just won the Super Bowl. One of them we just talked about started really poorly and overcame it because they have great coaching staff and a great infrastructure and a really really young defense. And the Niners. And I feel like all anyone's talking point with the Niners in 2025 is, well, they missed their window because now you got to pay Brock Purdy. Now you got to pay an old Fred Warner. Now you got to pay an old George Kittle. I'm interested in this team because clearly the metrics are telling me, the offense is still good. Shanahan is still the coach. They clearly understood the problem and just like a massive defensive makeover, flooding 5 different rookies into this thing. And I was interested in this, so I went back and I looked. So the Niners with Saleh in 2019, they were third in sacks per game. And then over the course of it, you can tell which seasons were good, period. Like in 2020, the year after the Super Bowl loss to Kansas City, the first one, 1.9 sacks per game, 20th in the league, missed the playoffs. 21, 3 sacks per game, second, lost in the conference title. 22, 14th with 2.5 sacks per game, lost in the conference title. Of course, the year before last, 2.7 sacks per game, 11th in the league, lost the Super Bowl. And then last year, 2.2 sacks per game, which was 22nd, and 6-11 missed the playoffs. So, ironically enough, this comes down to this team wants to get pressure, and Robert Saleh said, I need guys to get pressure with. So go get me a ton of defensive guys in the draft, and we'll rebuild this, and I'll get us back to these numbers where, hey, maybe we're not first like we were in 2019, but we still have Nick Bosa, we still have Fred Warner. Those baselines, and even Lenore, their nickel is really, really good. Malik Mustafa, before, the injury, if he plays a 16, 17 game season, he's a plus starter. So can we just get the 26th in EPA per play to, 18th, 17th? If we push our luck, can we be in the top 14? Because we know the offense is going to be good. So I'm interested in this team because this is a real prove-it year with a lot of guys, and if they can't prove it this year because they're trying to compete, the Brock Purdy money kicks in, and then it's going to be very awkward paying Brock Purdy a lot of money, and your team is just slowly deteriorating and going down a downslope.
I agree. And this is coming from someone who does despise the Niners with a passion. Like, outside of the Cowboys, the Niners might be my least favorite team in all of the NFL. That being said, though, I think people blew what had happened the last season out of proportion. You guys will see that in my schedule prediction. It was just they were battered with bad luck with everything that had happened with them, with everything that had happened with CMC at the start of the season. Trent Williams only played 10 games for them. Ricky Pearsall was shot. They worked, they spent the entire offseason dealing with a disgruntled Brandon Ayuk, who then tore his ACL. And then I hate, it's sad, but then everything that had happened with Chadarius Ward and everything in his personal life, and they would have loved to retain him. But he couldn't stay because of everything that had happened with him. And for those who don't know, you can, go and find more detail. He had a child that had passed away. So it was just a season of very bad luck for them. And as you said, it's going to be interesting to see if it was truly just a season of bad luck with all of those things that I had just listed off of like 8 or 9 things, or if they actually are starting to be on that downturn as a franchise, at least right now in that rebuilding cycle. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and dive into it. Everybody just ignore the top row for the Broncos, Raiders, and Chargers, because if you didn't know, that's the preseason schedule. I know the font's kind of small on the screen, so depending on, yeah. But anyways, starting off with the real top row, I have them beating the Seahawks, beating the Saints. I believe I had them beating the Cardinals here because they were at home, and then beating the Jaguars as well. So starting off 4-0. Matt?
Same thing. They are going to start 4-0 for me as well. They'll beat the Seahawks. I don't care about the 12th man. They'll beat my Saints. They'll end up splitting with the Cardinals, as I like to do, and they'll beat the Jaguars.
Yep, I'm right there with you guys. I'll have them win their first 4 games against the Seahawks, Saints, Cardinals, and
What
Jags.
could go wrong?
I have them beating the Rams, losing to the Bucks. I have them losing to the Falcons, and then I also have them losing to the Texans.
You just have them go 0-4.
Did I say losing to the Rams? I think, yeah. Yep.
Wow.
No. I'm sorry. No, 1-3 in that second row because they're beating the Rams. They're gonna switch. Yeah. So away team wins that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it? I have them losing to the Rams Thursday Night Football. I have them beating the Bucks. I have them losing to the Falcons and then losing to the Texans. So.
Yes, I have them going 1-3 in this stretch, losing to both the Rams and Bucks, then picking up their only victory in this 4-game stretch against the Falcons, and then turning around and losing to the Texans.
Also, I'm just now looking at this. Like, this is a brutal stretch. So the bye week at week 14, they have, is that 8 road games in the first 13 weeks?
Yep.
They're bad teams. Like the Giants and Browns don't really count, but still, like that's a crazy schedule.
Speaking of which, the third row is getting started here. They're going to beat the Giants, lose to the Rams. I think, I have them losing to the Cardinals here, beating the Panthers. So 2-2 in the third row for me. Matt?
Yeah, I have them beating the Giants, beating the Rams, splitting with the Rams, splitting with the Cardinals, so they'll lose this one. They'll beat the Panthers, and then I'll just throw it in. They'll beat the Browns. Still.
Yeah, they'll beat the Browns. Yeah.
They'll go 9-4 into the bye.
Yes, I actually have them winning those 5 games as well against the Giants, Rams, Cardinals, Panthers, and Browns as well.
And then just to end off that row, I have them beating the Titans and beating the Colts.
Just want to finish out those last 2 games as well.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, they'll lose against the Bears, and then they'll beat the Seahawks, and they'll finish with 11 wins, so 11-6.
I will have them, as I mentioned, they'll beat Cleveland. They will beat the Titans. They will beat the Colts. They'll lose to the Bears, and they'll beat the Seahawks, sweeping them, by the way. And they'll finish 12-5. They'll win the division this year. We've talked about this in the past. I feel like on this live stream, I have them going from first to worst, or worst to first, after going first to worst.
There you go. I have them losing to maybe the shocker of the season to the Titans here. Then beating the Colts, losing to the Bears, and losing to the Seahawks, putting them at 11-6, that same record as what the Rams were, but because the Rams had a better in-division record, the Rams will actually be winning the division.
Guys, mark it on the calendars. This is the first time we brought up the Bears in our schedule predictions when we all agreed that they would beat a team that's going to be a playoff team this year. That's pretty cool. Thank you.
Wow.
Sorry, I had to make a moment about my team.
The bar's low.
The bar is very low.